give it all manner of spin. The bottom line is, in his
Now,
own backyard, his own constituency, he doesn't have the
He's
support.
explaining
Let's
he's
move on to the
explaining
next
how
one.
they
No, he's
defended
spinning it. Let's move on to the next one. Do you remember
Let me
him
finish,
putting
Jerry,
forward a
Jerry,
candidate for
Jerry,
Wasungishu
Jerry,
governor?
Jerry, I want
Let
to
him
let
finish.
me finish
Let
here
him
with a
finish.
short thing.
Let him finish.
Do you know how Jamudai became an independent candidate? William Ruto came back and said, "Are you stupid to vote for Aluya?" He used that term. Huh? Are you stupid?
We're shocked.
That is when the other candidates rally, the Nandi people, the Nandi voters voted for that woman. Because of what? The tribe. If Kevin Okwara was a Nandi, we could be having another party. I'm sorry to say that.
But weren't they aware of this when they were doing their nomination? Were they not strategic to ensure a Jubilee candidate wins that seat?
Now, this, I'm telling you, we have 21 candidates. It's the same, the story of Tarpo constituency. It's the same of Langata. How did the Korir become MP? Because of other candidates, other tribes having ODM, Port Kenya, all those, and those tribes divided the votes.
Right.
Okay. Now let's look at his bid to put on his people governor in Wasungishu.
Yes.
Do you remember what happened there, the backlash
I
from
remember
the electorate there? Because what you're purporting is that he has a lot of support in the Rift Valley. I am giving you instances, political evidence that he doesn't have the support he purports to have.
Jerry, you know what you were talking, And that day, in fact, I was to call and you were told that, when it comes to our backyard, our people will tell you that we will vote for your party.
But we'll
But
vote for
don't
our
till
Till it
person.
comes to time to
Don't-
vote.
Don't give us your candidate. We will choose our own candidate. That is why, in fact, the story of Eldoret, of Wasingishu changed through a midnight. When the old Kalenjin said, Trans Nzoia is gone.
And the Karicho
Nakuru.
by-election. We're going
Nakuru,
through
wait,
this step by
wait,
step.
wait,
all
wait.
the places
He's
where he
telling
doesn't
us
have
something-
support.
something
What
interesting here.
I want us
Please
to
carry
do,
on, Yegon.
what I want us to do, Yegon, is because you actually have started this conversation and you want to respond to Jerry, is let's
Yes.
do this. Let's get to the top of the hour. Let's have a look at traffic, what's happening on the roads, and then we come back to you on this. And here, what exactly is it that you think makes Ruto the main candidate in Rift Valley? And if you have somebody else, they will not hack it. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice it.
Spice up your traffic.
Naivasha Road joining Gong Road at Junction is a parking lot. There are cops on site, but unfortunately little seems to be done. So that is going to affect traffic along Gong Road, heading out towards the City Mortuary roundabout and heading then on into the city centre. So traffic everywhere and not a change in sight. It's a parking lot on Thika Road as well. It could be party after party effects, I don't know, but that's what we see. Namanga Road at East African Portland Cement, traffic is good, flowing both sides, getting out onto Mombasa Road, but then we get to a certain part of the road where traffic is bumper to bumper. It's wet on Waiaki Way, so that means traffic has slowed down significantly. The traffic that started on Thika Road from Safari Park is still the same, trying to get our way out into the CBD. Nobody they waka pass, unfortunately. We'll try and get things better for you as they go. 0719012600. That's the number, give us a call.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your
Thank you
day.
very much for choosing the Situation Room as the only way to start your day at 2 minutes past 8 o'clock. This is broadcasting from Nairobi to Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, and also the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasts online on Spice FM KE, Facebook, Spice FM KE, YouTube, and www.spicefm.co.ke. It's Monday. It's Succession Mondays. Jerry Thorne has been rubbing her crystal ball, and today she's telling us that what she's going to see is Uhuru Kenyatta repaying old debts. And therefore, he's going to say Raila Tosha, and at the same time say, Raila, please go with Gideon Moi. In that way, he plays double card, actually triple card. 1, 2, paying debt. The third one is repaying the current debt with the Kalenjin community. And before we went into the break, we had Yego, who's still on the line. And Yego, you were telling Njeri something. That Njeri is telling you, you know, if you get Gideon, it's fine. It's as good as getting William. Yego.
No. Why am I saying big no? Here we have we have Gideon now. You know, when we recruit back to Rift Valley, we will argue based on tribes, and we will say tokens have their own share because Gideon was a token. Now we have Ruta commanding a tribe of Nandi and Kipsigis. You see? So that is what actually happened in Rift Valley. That is why even when Jerry was trying to tell me about Wasingishu politics, Wasingishu politics retrieved back to KO versus Nandi. No.
And is there any truth to the rumor that Ruto is half Kisii?
Pardon?
Is there any truth to the rumor that, and it's completely speculation, I've heard that Ruto is actually half Kisii? Is that true?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about this then, you know, Yegon? So, we are talking about repayment of debt. So, first of all, do you think Njeri's crystal ball is anywhere close to being right when she talks about it's time to repay debts?
You know, Jerry is forgetting that this Kenya is owned by 3 communities.
Owned
Luo,
by 3
Kalenjin, and
communities.
Kikuyu. Yes. Luo, Kalenjins, and Kikuyus. And
I'm not
despite the
forgetting
fact
that, but go on.
And despite the fact Njeri is trying to lie to us that there will be no Kikuyu president in 2020. In fact, the probability of having another Kikuyu president is high than not having. Why? Because of the numbers. Now, we have a debt here when Uhuru said, Yangu Kumi, Yago Kumi. And Jerry is trying to play some translation interpretation that as a minister, as the deputy.
Hiyo ni kumi. Si alisema yangu kumi yako kumi.
Yes,
So he's got his 10 years
and
as president and 10 years as deputy president.
No,
Even
it was
Ruto
very-
has said there is no debt that is owed to him.
No, that's political tone. But actually, you know, when we were merging URP with TNA, we were kind of like, Uhuru, why don't you give, why we want to support 10 and give us 5? Then after that, we change also to 5 and 5.
We
So
exchange.
that we can, yes. But now the numbers speaks most. Remember that these guys were 3 before, even before Mudavadi, we had Kalonzo, Ruta, and Uhuru. They were 3. And when they brought their numbers to the table, that is when Kalonzo was told, you can be now the Speaker of the National Assembly. And that is where he recruited back to court. Do you remember court?
Yeah, he went back.
That is when he went back to court. Now we have 3 promises here. But all these are political promises. There is no way we can repay back Jaramogi because the person who promised the debt was Kenyatta, not the
Jomo.
Uhuru. Yes, was Jomo.
But it's
Final
owed.
note.
If your
Final
parents have a
note.
debt and you
Final
have money,
point.
you pay that debt.
Final point, and then we let you go, Yego.
Final point. I want to tell Jerry that Uhuru is not a politician. Yes.
He's a president. He's developing the country. He's not politicking. Absolutely, I agree with you.
No, even the issue of being kingpin or what and what, Uhuru is not a politician. That is why after the exit of Kibaki, the jaws of Mutaiga Mudaika elders was Mudavadi.
I see.
Before the money and the Mamangina played cards well, Uhuru to be the president. Thank you.
Asante sana Yegon. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Succession Mondays. What do you think of what Njeri is saying? Njeri just...
Some good insights there from Yegan. Of course, he's very biased, so his judgment is naturally clouded and skewed when he sees this power that Ruto purports to have, so much of it. Not to dispute all of it, but he doesn't have the control of the Rift Valley that he purports to have. Remember, you've got Chama Shinani. You've seen support for that. He struggled a little bit and had to campaign intensively for the Kericho by-election. If he had the power he purports to have, that would have been a walkover, a ride in the park. Similarly, you have people in his backyard, in his constituency, on independent tickets. We saw what happened with Buzeki when he tried to bring him in. There was backlash from his own people. Yegun brings in a sort of tribal dynamics into that. But what you can see is that should another Kalenjin leader come in, there is support for him, because not all the support is going directly to Ruto. Having said that, my take today, or what the crystal ball is telling me, is that a debt needs to be repaid, and we can see us being primed for this in the handshake. I think there's a sense of historical injustice. There's two communities that have had tensions over years, fueled by a number of different things, including, of course, elections, but also historically, where Jaramogi Odinga came in, and he was actually pivotal in ensuring that Uhuru Kenyatta was our first president. He actually brought up the name in the negotiations.
Uhuru Kenyatta.
Oh, sorry,
Jomo
Kenyatta.
Mzee Jomo.
Mzee Jomo Kenyatta was our first president as Kenyans. He actually brought up the name in negotiations with the British, and he refused to take any position of power until Jomo Kenyatta was released. I think that is a huge statement, and I know Uhuru would like to repay that debt, and I think he's going to do this through his son. It was the last opportunity that that Jaramogi Odinga would have gotten for power. He did, of course, subsequently get positions in power, but that was his last opportunity, and he gave it up. And I believe this time Uhuru will repay that debt. We can see that sentiment and us being primed for that through the handshake. And then I've talked about the viability of that in terms of numbers. 48% of the vote, as things stood in 2017, went to Raila. He only needs to garner 3% more. Even if it's Gideon's supporters giving him that 3%, he's got it. And then you've got the Kikuyus, you've got Uhuru supporters who Uhuru will tell Raila Tosha.
Succession Mondays, 0719-012-600. Samuel Ron calling in from Rongo. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
You've heard what Njeri is saying in her crystal ball this morning. What do you think?
I just think, as my suggestion, the debt, there's a confusion here. Like the Kalenjins are saying that the debt is between... They don't...
All right, sorry, we lost Samuel Ron. Please call back, Samuel. 0719-012-600.
If this actually happens, do you think that the outcry that would come from Ruto camps would be insignificant enough, or significant enough then to not, shake it or shake this new foundation enough to say, okay, maybe something ought to be done about it? Because I do believe they really do believe that there is something that is owed to them, or owed to Ruto per se, in terms of what then he was able to do to garner that portion of the Rift Valley that he did.
He was
and
a
that
great
vote that he
mobilizer.
brought in. I don't think his belief is that he was going to serve as vice president for 10 years.
Not even
and
the
even
belief.
from the sentiment that
The
he's putting
promise wasn't that.
he's expressing now, he does believe that he will be president come 2022 for the next 10 years. So if these if the sayings of the toothsayer are that it will be that Ruto will be out of the running, don't you think there's going to be significant hue and cry from those camps?
He doesn't have to be out of the running, but I'm actually questioning this debt repayment that she's speaking of. Are we looking at self-preservation, or are we looking at debt repayment?
Self-preservation for whom?
I'm
dynasty.
going to explain this.
Okay.
In 2002, President Kibaki had an accident.
Yep.
The person who did the running around was Raila.
Raila Odinga, yeah.
We saw how he was rewarded for his running around. Now you have a situation where you have Uhuru and Ruto. I am talking about perceptions in politics. It will be perceived that Ruto did the running around and helped Uhuru. and he is now being kicked out.
He
That
wasn't
is-
kicked out. He's had 10 years as vice president, and it's a very strong position.
He's being kicked
He's
in
had
the
the
teeth,
opportunity to
Jerry.
put in some of his ministers. No,
would be
he's not.
kicking him in the teeth. You know,
He's not. He's had 10
if-
years as vice president, and it's a very powerful position.
The problem
And he
is
has been given free reign almost to do
No.
quite a bit.
he hasn't
I won't
been
go into it,
president.
but he has been given free reign.
No. Look, Raila was promised a prime ministership, which he never got. That was a kick in the teeth. I'm talking about political perceptions and the continuity of it.
There
and
is-
and,
there
and,
is-
and the
this-
people who've represented the community have exacerbated this view
True, Jerry.
that this is a community that do not keep their promises.
There was the sentiments that Raila Tosha's statement came to, it was a little too late, that Kibaki and Wamalwa already had it.
Kibaki Tosha statement.
And
Yes,
you're saying
what did I
Kibaki
say?
and-
Raila
Raila
Tosha.
Tosha.
Sorry, there's so many of them. The Kibaki Tosha statement from Raila was too late anyway, in that Kibaki was going to win anyway. The general sentiment is that
Where?
people wanted change.
And you think Kibaki was the person they were going to?
Go for, absolutely.
That sounds to me like...
If you combine that with
no.
the fact that for the first time in history, and probably the last time, the Luya community coalesced around one leader at the time, and that's quite a big majority. Well, that's quite a big number in terms of a voting bloc. And then Kibaki had a lot of the Kikuyu vote. He didn't need that statement to
Okay.
take him to the
Are
state
you
house.
aware that that's the same logic you're applying to the Ruto case right now?
This particular
No,
case.
A
no,
narrative,
What I've
a
said,
narrative
what I've
of
said
convenience.
is no. What I have said is Ruto is a great mobilizer, and he brought some support. He brought in the Kalenjin support, no doubt, and they're going to be repaid. If we're going to talk as rudimentary and raw as repayment, they're going to be repaid.
By having their
Gideon
man
will come
Gideon
in.
there
Absolutely,
as
they need
another
their man
deputy.
there.
You don't
He'll
seem to
come in as another
understand
deputy. Another
what
deputy.
Yogon was telling you. They do not feel the Moi family needs to be given another presidency.
They've already had
it's not
their
even
chance.
complicated.
Yeah.
They've had their chance, and he's telling you this.
He doesn't bring up the anti-Ruto sentiments that is in the Rift Valley.
I have Siango who's calling in from Nairobi. Good morning, Siango.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so mine might not be as biased as Yegon, because I might not be from the backyard, like he puts it. But I when I listen to that narrative by Njeri, it sounds like those old days when fathers used to assist their sons to get wives. And then some of the age mates of your father who assisted him to get a wife, and now when you're grown up, you're supposed to to pay a debt for your age mates of your father, which is really hard to sell. The other thing I'm looking at is 10 years. The narrative that has been pushed is 10 years for Uhuru, 10 years for Ruto. Waking up one day to say the 10 years was meant for
Concurrent.
the presidency, it's actually likely to pull in sympathy from a lot of people who think Ruto really did hard work, but he's been rewarded by being kicked out. So that's really something that is for me, someone like me would feel this guy is being victimized.
Right.
And it's from pretty from looking at the scenario the way it is without being compromised
bias.
by anything. Exactly.
Thank you, Siango.
Nothing is void of a
All right.
bias. but-
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
0719-012-600. I have the phone lines open. Please call in and also weigh in on this conversation. You know what you're saying, Jerry, basically just brings back that conversation. Hustler versus dynasties. These are dynasties regrouping and, using the excuse of debts being repaid.
We know
So
that
the
Ruto
sons-
is a dynasty
the
as well. We
sons-
know that.
the
He's got his children in positions of power. We are very aware that
Not
he's
yet,
a dynasty.
not yet,
So
but
these
here
are
we
all
are-
dynasties.
here we are
People
talking
at the
about
helm of power in Kenya are dynasties.
The son of Jomo, the son of Jaramogi, the son of Daniel Toroitich, coming together.
Those
and
were
saying,
previous presidents, Jomo and Daniel Toroitich.
Remember,
Remember,
and now here you are
Jaramogi
saying,
has never been president, so
and
there's no dynasty
and
there
here you
as
are.
such.
Here you are saying that the son of Jomo owes the son of Jaramogi a debt.
There's a debt that is owed, yes.
And then also we shall go with the debt that's owed to the son of Daniel Toroitich.
You know what? The
But
overall
political
thing is,
dynasties
Hey.
don't need your father to have, that require your father to have been a president. It just means this was someone who had a large political life and sort of like left, the legacy left the son was that political seat.
Like Musalia and Moses.
That's a dynasty.
Moses Mudamba Mudavadi and
That's a
Musalia
dynasty.
Wycliffe Mudavadi.
Yes.
you
And
know, the interesting thing is, you contradict yourselves when we say we shouldn't pay back debts and so on. Yet we owe
we have
Ruto.
not said you shouldn't pay
No,
back
it's
debts.
it's Eric. saying
Eric
that
hasn't
we
said
owe
that at all.
Ruto. He says we owe Ruto, that we said to him 10 years and another 10 years. We owe Ruto.
I talked to you
Now,
about political
if we have a debt,
perceptions.
then we go back to the debt that we originally had,
Which debt?
which would be to Raila and his father. There is a debt to be repaid there. If you understand political undercurrents and undertones, that is the first debt that should be repaid. The second debt should be to President Moi for endorsing and nurturing and bringing Uhuru into the fore and making sure he's president. If we look at debts the way we do, there's debts that need to be repaid first.
I am not arguing against your debt. It's the logic you're
I don't have a debt.
So we are saying that all of these.
Mimi
So what
Sina
you're
Deni.
saying,
No, I'm
so
not
what you're saying
arguing.
is that
I'm
all
not
of these
arg-
debts must be paid. The
No.
succession of such then is
If-
now what
if
we're
we're
arguing
going-
about.
if
In
we're
terms
going
of
to
the
look
point
at-
first,
if we're
the
going
debt
to look
is
at-
paid.
It's the order of repayment.
Yes, if we're going to look at the Ruto presidency as a debt that we're repaying, let us go all the way back and repay all the debts that we should. Otherwise, we remove the debt factor. We remove that sense of guilt as Kikuyus that we owe something, and we vote for the best candidate.
Kita Eleweka. Samuel Ron is back online from Rongo. Good morning, Samuel.
Morning, I'm just suggesting that, just assuming that Ruto is not
Samuel, sorry, your line is still very, very noisy. So, Samuel, please try and call again. 0719-012-600. 0719-012-600. So you're saying that the order of the debt is what matters here?
If we're going to do it through a debt framework, otherwise we leave the debt
Jerry,
completely.
Jerry,
We
if you-
forget that anybody
you
is
owe
owed
me-
anything, and we put the best candidate
If
forward.
you owe me a debt, Jerry, and then you come and tell me, no, Eric, I can't pay your debt because my mom owed Ndu's mom a debt. I'm going to pay Ndu. I don't care.
Well, the dynamics are slightly
I don't care about
different
your
here.
mom and Ndu's mom.
No.
I care about you owing me a debt.
Yes, there's political nuances, of course, that come into play. In that they shouldn't even be debts in politics if you're going to simplify it that way. But we all understand the undertones and how it works. And here, what I'm saying is, if we're going to repay any debt, let it be to the oldest debt that we have.
The problem that arises is that you're talking about this against a background of debts not having been paid previously. So what seems to be the norm is yet a new narrative being created for a new debt not to be repaid.
We're trying to clear our CRB here. So what we're doing...
We need to get your names off the political CRB.
What we're doing is we're going backwards, and we want to clear all those debts. But of course, here I'm being somewhat flippant. What I want to bring to light is that we can't do this debt repayment politics. It doesn't work because we have debts dating back from 1963, and that's what we need to clear first. So my crystal ball, yes, told me this, but of course I was able to decipher that the message here is let's move away from this debt notion.
Chris is calling
I wasn't
in from
happy with
Naivasha.
the crystal ball. Mhm.
Chris,
Yes, how are you?
good morning. You're
Good
calling in from
morning.
Naivasha. Do you think there's a debt or not?
Actually, there is a debt.
To who?
What Njeri she's trying to do, actually, she's even messing for the alleged alliance between Raila and Uhuru.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you say Ruto was not actually promised the 10 years presidency. They're saying that he was the 10 years, which was alleged, was the deputy president.
He was promised 10 years. Mm-hmm.
It's an accused. He was not promised 10 years for the deputy president.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he was promised 10 years from 2022. And the
Do you
president was
have
very clear.
evidence of that? Because they said 10 years for you and 10 years. He said 10 years for me and 10 years for you. And he's had that. He'll have
that's
had 10 years of
narrative you are
deputy.
trying to spin, which Jerry, you're even worsening for the Kileweke side. You're making
No,
this-
I'm not on anybody's side. I am just saying it's a possibility that it could be interpreted that way.
Jerry, that one, okay, to put in the ground, actually, I understand you very well that you're cunning, and you are trying to spin a narrative which is not working. Actually, the deputy president is with the masses.
Okay.
And that is what it is. That is what is happening in the ground. So actually, maybe what you can even say.
Tell me.
Is, you can sell the idea of handshake, other than using the idea of saying maybe the route of 10, the route to 10 is over.
For me, it's a possibility that he meant 10 and 10. But
Let me bring
moving from there, you believe there is no debt or there's a debt, and to whom is the debt owed to?
There is a debt for William Ruto, and that is actually what is clear to Kenyans.
Okay. Chris, thank you very much for calling. I also have Birgen calling in from Eldoret. Good morning, Birgen.
Good morning, Latif. How are you?
Salama kabisa. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
What do you think?
Good
morning.
Good morning. Now, let me weigh in on this. I have a feeling that although there's new debt for Ruto, we also need to be honest in our politics. I want to say that it's public knowledge that Ruto was promised 10 years. But now when the game was changed via handshake to look like we are confusing the 2022 equation. So I still go with the debt situation, but I think we are not sincere in any way in our politics.
Do you think there's any debt owed to Raila in any way, shape, or form? From Raila, from Kibaki Tosha, and from Jaramogi endorsing or making sure that Jomo is released?
Well, that could be the old generation of debt.
So we ignore those.
It's not historical. It's not a historical debt.
And this one that you speak of is not historical. If the promise was made in 2013, you are aware it is historical.
How historical does it have to be, or how far back does it have to be for it to be historical?
Bilgen, tell them this is current.
What makes this debt different from the past?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
You're still getting me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
The currency of it is that the two parties that were involved in this are still there.
Okay.
They are still in government.
That's a good point. Yeah. Fair enough.
It's only the transition part that we have to manage.
All right.
You understand?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Birgen.
Please, think again about it.
All right.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. Jerry's crystal ball this morning is actually saying that Uhuru Kenyatta is likely to say,
You see the problem.
Raila Tosha.
The problem is narrative. It follows a litany of narratives that even led up to the 2017 elections, when the response to the issue being taken to the Supreme Court was, this is a perennial loser. Now, that narrative was so effective that it actually featured on the headlines of the New York Times and the Washington Post. It featured. Such things don't feature. Third world country news never feature on this paper.
We're not third world city.
We are third world.
No.
You're a developing economy.
We are a developing third world country. Now, the net result of it, when the Supreme Court decided to throw out the elections and said, let's go for re-election, heads rolled in these two very influential papers. The regional heads of these papers lost their jobs. And the New York Times and the Washington Post apologized. Something they don't usually do. I am saying this. When you want to justify a position because you've taken a certain stand, you may justify it if you wish. Unfortunately, history will not judge you kindly.
No, unfortunately.
It will not judge you kindly, especially if the narrative has been followed before or has been seen. Remember, I was telling you, we're talking about political perceptions. And in politics, perceptions matter more than the truth. If it is perceived to be the truth, that perception will hold sway.
How do you perceive this, City? How do you perceive this? Is there a debt owed
Yes, there is a debt owed.
To who?
There's a debt owed to Ruto because it was stated so.
Is there a debt owed to Raila Odinga?
It was owed during the Kenyatta time, and they would say they repaid it during the coalition government because Raila then became prime minister.
No, that was another debt that was accrued by Kibaki Tosha, apparently.
But I am talking about the Kibaki Raila era.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So he did become prime minister.
How about debts from the Jaramogi Jomo era?
That
What do we do with those?
the thing is this. It is a debt insofar as you can consider a favor a debt which needs to be paid by another favor.
Mm-hmm. This is what these debts are about. It's not cash per se. It's political favors that must
And
be
that's
returned.
why I gave
It's
the
Kurudisha
example of
Mkono.
Mandela. Yes, that's why I gave the example of Mandela. Why do you think that after Mandela, who became president? Who became president after Mandela?
Thabo.
Yes.
Thabo Mbeki.
Govan Mbeki was Mandela's buddy. Yes. So
It was repayment
yes,
of debts.
Govan had died, but these are these Tambo, Govan Mbeki. These are the boys who were at the helm of ANC and fought for these things. Govan wasn't there. Give his son the thing, the Rudisha Mkono thing.
And Moi was Rudisha Mkono when he
was
propelled
giving-
Yes,
Uhuru
he was.
to the helm.
He was Rudisha Mkono.
So Uhuru then does not need to Rudisha any Mkono
to
To whom?
to Gideon.
well,
Because the act was actually already cancelled out.
Actually,
Yep.
no. Eric, it doesn't quite work that way.
Jomo to Moi,
No,
Moi to...
no.
No,
No,
I
it doesn't.
agree with you.
Kenyatta's.
That was repaying a debt, wasn't it? You can say Moi was repaying the favor or paying
So
it forward,
it's
so to
cancelled out.
speak. But there is a debt still owed to Raila
Do you
as a
think the
result
people-
of Jaramogi.
Do you think the people who now will actually go and perform the voting exercise understand the semantics of all of this? Debts being owed or what not being
Yes.
owed, and
The
understand
grassroots, Oh, yes,
they
and
do.
understand that this
Yes,
is
they
what
do.
they would actually go and do.
Yes,
All right.
they do.
But they're calling
So-
and saying
Well, they
that.
feel entitled, or
Okay,
they feel it's their
so-
right.
So, the general agreement or general sentiment is that yes, Ruto is owed. Having been said that there's something that is owed to him. Now, since this promise had been made, several things have changed over time. The relationship has been a bit weighted down by different sentiments having come to the fore, which were not there previously. There have been factions within the ruling party that have now come up and kind of deepened the divide, which wasn't maybe initially not there, but clearly has come to the fore. Now, do you think the voting will change based on the elements or the factors that we've seen that have brought about change within this original relationship, which was nice and rainbow and bunny all the way, but then now has changed over time? Will the people who will then go out and vote make a change because of they've seen the promise that was made has somehow changed in terms of
They will
tact?
see betrayal, they will act. In fact, that's what Chris
Or
has
will
just
they
said.
see betrayal
But
and
he
act
himself-
based on the
That's what
betrayal that
Ruto
they have
himself-
seen that has happened? Because the promise was made. Ruto is saying that yes, a promise has been made and we must stick to the promise. Others are saying, what promise? we're reneging on our promise, clearly.
Kitaeleweka.
Ruto himself, he's reiterated the fact that no community owes him anything, and he's dismissed claims by some leaders fronting the idea. So he himself won't be campaigning on this. Because also remember, the voters, the electorate, as CT sometimes, is sometimes right, as he says, the electorate is not stupid. And they don't want to be
Sometimes,
manipulated. Sometimes you're right, CT.
Coming from you, that's a huge concession.
That's a very huge compliment.
That's a
I've
massive
taken a few
concession.
step backs. It's Monday. The electorate doesn't want to feel manipulated, especially the central voting bloc. They don't want to feel they've been forced into anything. Yes, some do say they owe. Some do say if it wasn't for Ruto, if it wasn't for the mobilization, Uhuru wouldn't have been there. You do have that faction. But there is a faction who say, no, let's see what the development will look like. Let's see what happens under these two as a presidency, and we will decide. We don't want to feel forced or pressurized into anything. Now, that block, I would say, counts for at least 50% of the central block. And if that block can be shifted to Raila, who we've decided has 48%, well, then Raila has it in terms of viability.
Your crystal ball this morning has actually been, very, very, you really rubbed it.
I did.
Clearly, you
But,
really loved it.
yeah, it talked of political debts, but I think what I want to really discuss is the absurdity it leads to in terms of misleading the electorate. What we want is a leader who is about development, a leader who will lead this country. We've talked about values, national values lacking. This is what we need. We need somebody.
Not talk of debt.
Not talk of debt. I wanted to highlight the absurdities that this could lead to. If we focus on this idea of debt that one community owes another, and the tension, and how do you force people, because you can say, well, the Kikuyu community never live up to their promises. How do you force people to vote? So I am the leader of the Kikuyu community, let's say. How would I force people to vote? Maybe they go against what I'm saying. So
That's a new
it's
narrative.
individuals. Is it a new narrative?
No, that's
It
a new
is
narrative.
individuals with independent
When it
minds
comes
that are
to
making
repaying
their
the
own.
debt, you now
They should
twist
choose
it.
their own
They
leaders.
should choose their
What you're
own, and they
suggesting
shouldn't
is
be
that they're
forced.
herds of sheep that can be pushed into one
Yeah, they
direction
can
or
be
another.
told-
Actually,
Maybe
I
these are
think-
independent
no.
thinkers.
We also and so
It's
They
like
are not-
trying to
we.
get the Luya community to vote in one block.
They are not sheep. They are people who follow their leaders. And their leaders are the ones who hold sway in the direction a lot of these votes go. That's just the reality of our
But
politics.
if you see in Central, there's a lot of independent tickets as well.
Are you suggesting
You find a lot
that
of
the
people
other
don't go with the
voters in
party.
this country are
Need
sheep
to be
who
led.
don't think?
All I'm saying is
let's
that
see
it's
what
not as easily
Jerry's crystal
repairable as you
ball
think.
gives us next week on Monday. Good morning. It's 28 minutes to 9 o'clock.
Tired of living your same old life? Need to spice it up and add some flavor? Well, we can help you go from living to living it up. East Africa, are you ready to be a part of the most vibrant entertainment scene with the best, freshest music, travel tips and destinations, fashion, tech and health trends, as well as your favorite celebrities' lifestyles? Introducing your favorite entertainment magazine, Pulsar, the ultimate all-in-one guide that will give you more meaning to life. Catch up with your celebrity writers and contributors to stay up to date with what's happening around you, where and how you can be a part of all that. The lifestyle guide that has been missing in your life. Pulsar. Live it up.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
So what was supposed to have been used to subvert traffic on Mombasa Road now is a nightmare. The southern bypass is pathetic. It's bumper to bumper, trying to get off Mombasa Road. So at this point, you might as well stay on Mombasa Road and try and see if you can get where you're going faster. We don't know why. We don't know what the reason is. Somebody's bound to tell us soon enough. All right, well, Ngong Road, it's a surprise because now coming off one part of the road, you are free, but the other side is total jam heading all the way to town. So yes, please be patient. You'll get there eventually. Waiakere jam all the way from NCCK all the way down heading towards the city center. It took Kipchoge less than 2 hours to run a distance of 42 kilometers. We're in Kukakawa, Sukari. We've been here for 2 hours. It's 29 kilometers, and we have not moved an inch. That's the traffic. Send us a message or give us a call. Let's see how we can get you moving faster than the traffic has.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 97.6 in Malindi, 90.9 in Nyeri, 96.7 Eldoret, 96.0 in Nakuru, 102.5 Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa. And of course, we always live stream on Facebook every morning, Spice FM on Facebook and www.spicefm.co.ke. That's the website. And also we are live streaming on YouTube. That's Spice FM KE. Follow our conversation on Twitter, hashtag Situation Room, and please follow us on Twitter as well at Spice FM KE. Well, this is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Eric Latif. In the room, we have Nduoko, Jerry Thorne, and C.T. Muga.
Yes. Last week, some MPs in Western Kenya made some really emotive statement, which culminated in this one line: Ruto should not visit Western Kenya unless this matter is resolved. The matter they were referring to was the eviction of 57 families from a land that was registered as Nandi Kiptangani 1371/1384. 28 acres of land in Nandi County. The governor for Nandi County, Mr. Sang, retorted and said this should not be politicized by politicians. They should let the court's order be obeyed. Now, court. Now, many of you may not know, but we do have a court in this country called the Environment and Lands Court. It deals with such matters. The justice in charge of that particular docket and who issued that particular order was a Justice Mwangi Njoroge. Now, it seems like a simple matter, but it is a matter that touches at the heart of very, very many Kenyans, and it touches on something that you call land adjudication. Land that was previously owned or was owned by people, somehow they never got the paperwork right. They never ensured that whatever it is that had been agreed upon met a certain threshold of ownership. Years go by, it isn't set right. And then you take it to court. The court will look at the letter of the law. To understand this, let's go to Naivasha. There is a famous ranch in Naivasha called the Kedong Ranch. The Kedong Ranch was owned on paper, legally, by almost who is who in this country. From the president's family, the first president's family, to who you name it. This is land that had been owned by the Maasai. This was land that during the colonial era was owned by the people who were then colonialists. When we got independence, it was then taken over by these individuals. And when the Maasai community got their people to try and claim this land, it was a whole list of people representing the Maasai community from that region. And the people that they petitioned the case against were a whole list of very senior government officials plus the KenGen company, because that particular area was also the same area where a lot of these geothermal activities were taking place. Again, this particular court ruled against them. And there was a hue and cry, a massive hue and cry about it. Later on, there was some agreement arrived at with the locals, and 4,000 acres was allocated to the locals. Now, if you want to bring it home and you want to understand where people who have followed due diligence and have brought in land adjudication, two families. There's a Karume family and the Koinange family, both from Kiambu. If you notice, the issue isn't about the ownership of land. The issue is about who should get what. Because the land was, the adjudication was done properly and the land is intact. If you look at the Koinange family, it's a property bang in the middle of town. Bang in the middle of town, literally next to Kenyari. Nobody touches it. It's used as a parking lot. They have a huge property, which was formerly a coffee farm. No one touches it. Land adjudication was properly done. This isn't a case that is isolated. It's just that they haven't come to the fore. Many of these cases will occur. Many of these cases will come to the fore because the people who originally got in the agreement usually have all died. So it is now their heirs who are coming up with this. And if they were not informed, and even if they were informed, but due diligence was not done, then the sort of problems that we're seeing in Nandi will occur. Indeed, this isn't a political issue, it is a land adjudication issue.
It's a matter that actually goes deep into that, into the heart of the lands ministry.
It is.
But it has been politicized.
It has.
Hence
this one
it's a political issue.
Has been politicized, and correctly, yes, it has now become a political issue.
However, at the same time, you've seen the land CS has been reported to have gone there and had a conversation with these people and said, yes, we're going to see how we're going to address this matter. So is this a case of the lands ministry also seeing this is a hot potato, it's something we didn't do, we should have done, but also running away from their own responsibility?
Eric, the minister in charge of road and transportation went to the ferry. Did it solve
Sent
the
a
problem?
PS there for an entire
sent a
week.
PS, and how did that work? Going there is an exercise in PR. Okay?
So it's basically shucking their responsibility.
Yes, but the thing that I want you to note is this. At the heart of some of these problems have always been leading government officials. The problems of land in this country, many of it, you go around it, you gravitate around it, but it'll land again, as you say correctly, to the Ministry of Lands. You can go around it as many times as you like. Right now, in this very city of Nairobi, there have been issues arising from individuals saying that they are being harassed by unknown people, people who want to. We even had some buildings being demolished.
Yes.
Yes. what one reads and what one hears is that there's a cartel. This one is a genuine cartel who understand that many of the leases on these properties are coming to an end. Now, leases by their very nature, 99 years is
expiring.
It's expiring. So it means the lease can be changed or it could be extended.
It's not just in Nairobi as well. By the way, Mombasa too, there have been cases similar to Nairobi's cases.
Yes. Now, what does this mean? Again, we are back to that same issue. Some of these are probably absentee landlords. Some of them are just careless. They haven't bothered. Again, adjudication. You haven't bothered to ensure that this property or whatever it is it's standing on still benefits you. So, here we are. Again, it brings back the debate. At what point do we blame the government and at what point do the owners take the initiative? This one, lands may be blamed, but if you claim to own land, is it not your duty to ensure that due diligence has been done and that the ownership has actually been corrected to the point where it cannot be disputed legally?
How would it be carried out if I bought a piece of land, or if a piece of land was, handed down to me in terms of inheritance? Then, just like you say, it is required then of me to then go to the Ministry of Lands and make sure that the documents that have been handed over to me, or rather the documents that I have then, transferred to my name and all other due diligence, etc., etc. But what happens in most cases, and I've seen that here, is that, a sale is done or whatever, and then the transfer documents are actually not carried out. And then we get into tussles later on when somebody's asked, did you sell the Sandy? Yes, I did. Who received the documents? I'm not really sure. So yes, the process of due diligence was not done, and that's how we have ourselves in this mess, which, a lot of times when now there are evictions or people are driven out because there's a historical. However, one thing that has also come up quite often coming out of the Ministry of Lands is loss of files. And there was a whole clamor for the digitization of the Lands Ministry at some point, and said that if we had all these records in digital form, we would not. And one of the reasons that the digitization was being asked for was this recurrent loss of files, this recurrent loss of records, where that it could not be found, because then it became word of mouth. My father sent to me
of land cartels and land thieves.
Right. My father gave it to me. I bought it, but now I cannot find the individual. But had it been digitized at that point, perhaps some of the cases that we are seeing then would not be. And so, you see, T, when you ask whose fault was it, I think in this case, it's not clear where we can point the finger and say, this is the person who's solely responsible, because both sides have a part to play here. You as the individual then who this land was being given to, or who, as you bought it. But then also on the part of the department that is mandated with the responsibility and really, yes, the authority to make sure that because I believe that every piece of land falls under their jurisdiction in this country.
It actually even comes to the community.
Falls under their jurisdiction, and it is within their responsibility to make sure that they are aware of that they are aware of transactions on every piece of land, regardless of where it is. It sounds like a huge task, but this is what they've been mandated with, to make sure that this is their job.
If it is
that is actually done.
If it is your land, as you correctly put it, whose duty is it to ensure that all the legal requirements are actually met? Is it the lands department or yours?
No, actually, it's yours. It's yours.
It's personal.
If I have a document, for example, and I take it to lands, and they tell me, which has happened in many cases, this document or this title deed that you have is not valid, or it's not, or it's just a piece of paper that is fake.
Stop right there.
Where did it come from?
Stop right there.
I've stopped.
One of the things that you're required to do when you want to buy land, let's not even what you're required to do. If you wanted to buy land, who do you go to? People never go anywhere. They just talk to the person who's selling them.
But you still need to do a search. So there's an element of due diligence.
Even the problem even comes in at that search level.
So what you're saying
because
is
it's
the corruption
compromised.
is systematic.
Yes.
Systemic and systematic.
Yes, it is. It is.
So it's the system
so
that
even the
corrupts.
titles that you speak of, how many times do we hear of cases where there
somebody
are 4
says,
titles for the same property?
Yes.
No.
And each of them has actually done that due diligence. They've gone, they've done a search, they've conducted a search,
So what
and
you're
they've found
saying,
what
it's
they've
out
been
of their
given
hands.
is
They don't have anything they can do as the buyers.
So is the system digitized? Is it digitized right now?
What the lands?
I have never
registry?
actually bothered
Cricket.
to find out
Cricket.
because in my mind it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
lands
Don't you
because
see- don't
it
you
doesn't
see-
matter.
The lands ministry has actually said so. The lands ministry has said that the system is now digitized.
Mm-hmm.
They've even, I remember there was hue and cry from the lawyers because they were told now we are operating on a digital system.
Mm-hmm.
So you've also got to adhere to what we are saying.
Mm-hmm.
And the
It
lawyers are
hasn't
saying-
finished yet. It's to digitize all records in 66 registries by 2020. So another
next
year.
year.
Yeah. So it's supposed to ease the registration process. We'll wait and see how that works.
But CT, if I am purchasing a piece of land, and even if I did all my negotiations with the individual who was selling the land to me, for example, if I inherited it and the person I'm inheriting it from is late, but must I not go to this body to
Yes, you
confirm?
must. Yes, you must.
So if I do then take my document there and I find out that they tell me the document that you have then, as has been the case in many times, that the document that you have is fake, whose responsibility then, or who is supposed to help me with this fake document that I have?
I would advise differently. This is why you go to a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So the presence of a lawyer mitigates. There are many things you don't have to now deal with directly as you. And the lawyer understands these processes better than you do.
Right.
And understands what needs to be done better than you do. There are other people who could understand the same thing. They're called surveyors.
But the lawyer can be duped just as easily as yourself.
It
if there's
doesn't matter.
And it has
duplicates.
happened
If there's
many
duplicate
times.
land
Yes. But you're not
titles
exposed.
and so on.
You're not as exposed if you are doing it on your own.
So
That's the
use
point I'm
use
making.
experts.
Use someone who understands these things. You may be exposed, but not as if you went on your own. That one, you're completely exposed and you'll have nowhere to turn.
These are cases that happen.
For
You
things
see,
like searches, you would need lawyers. So
But-
automatically you have lawyers in the mix.
Searches, you don't even need lawyers. You can do a search
you
on
just
your
search.
own.
Yeah, you
Right.
You
just
pay a
search.
certain amount, you go there, do a certain amount, and they do it for you. It's not even
It's
complicated.
going through the transaction that you may require now to get a lawyer to come in. But you see, if you look at it from just the rural perspective, I want to buy a piece of land and I know CT Muga is selling land and I know you, I know that land. I just come and say, Mzee, let's negotiate.
Eric,
You
you
sell
brought
me the
in the
piece of
second
land.
part of the discussion.
And then we go to the lands board because at the local level there's a local lands board.
Yes,
So you
there
go to the
is.
local
Yeah.
lands board
Yeah,
and you
there is.
have this agreement penned and you have the conversation there and I get my title deed.
I understand, and it's actually true because they are there. And I think they have. It's interesting. I don't ask me how I know, but they have sittings every Wednesday. Interestingly enough, every Wednesday
You've
around
bought
all the
land, clearly,
counties,
yes.
around all counties in the country. So they're actually available to give the information. Now I'm looking at these 57. It's 57, right? I'm looking at these 57 families that have basically been kicked out of their land, whether it is theirs by inheritance or whether they
the court
bought it
says
or
it's
not.
not theirs.
The county says it's not theirs.
The court says
No.
it's
The
not
court
theirs.
says it's not theirs.
Legally, it
so,
isn't.
Okay, so now what has happened, even though the whole situation has been politicized, on a grand scale, again, it's pointing to the fact that you and I, have to be extremely careful, especially when it comes to issues of land, because it is a matter of contention as high as the political level in this country. So even if you have done it's a bit scary because even if you have done the due diligence as an individual, whether you have your lawyer in tow, if somebody has chosen to hoodwink you, you're still stuck.
This
Even if you
case-
have done
this
all the
case
due
is
diligence,
unique
the
in this
government
sense.
is not.
There are very many pieces of land in this country that were previously owned by what we call the settlers. If you want to be impolite, colonialists, okay, or if you want to be more truthful. Now, when they left, there were people who even probably purchased the land, but there were people already working there who just continued living there. Some had actually gotten papers indicating some arrangement of their ownership. Like this group, they did have papers and they showed. Why I brought in the subject of land adjudication, they did not take that process to its logical conclusion.
Okay, did they not do that because they were lazy or they were unaware of the next step? Because a lot of people
I'm repeating.
I'm
They are
going somewhere with
complicit
this.
in the theft.
Because oh wow.
Do carry on.
Okay. Because I am trying to understand and also move to the next step where you say they did not go to the complete process.
No.
Because a lot of people feel that, okay, once money has exchanged hands and documents also have followed the same process, that the process has ended.
You know, there's something called goodwill, which is all good and well, but if it doesn't have a legal structure to support it, you have nothing. That's why I said legally.
Right.
The judge wasn't wrong. The judge goes by whatever documents the
presented
country
before.
considers legal. You don't have them, it isn't it's not even complicated.
You don't even have a case.
Yes. I gave the Kedong Ranch example because it involved just the highest possible government officials you could mention. And government projects were in that land. The community lost the court case, but the government decided to negotiate with them and give them allocated 4,000 acres.
Yeah.
The point I'm trying to make is somebody understood and said, actually, this land did belong to them. We know the colonialists took it, and we know we bought it, but let's be fair.
Yeah, they had a right to this.
Let's be fair.
I'm sure if I open up the phone lines now, 0719-012-600, you'll have very many cases of, all these cases of land issues from community level to personal level. People who've bought land in Nairobi or elsewhere who had issues with the ministry. And also people who've bought community land and then the mzee has died and then the sons now come and tell you,
sorry.
Sisi hapana jua.
Yeah.
We've heard those cases in Kajiado. In fact, the governor of Kajiado, the former governor of Kajiado, Professor Nkirianye, said, let's freeze land transactions first, because we are having so many cases of people coming to say, Mzee was conned out of this land by these guys who came and took over their land, and we don't know about this.
In Kenya, is it kind of like an unspoken rule whereby you do not sell ancestral land? Ancestral land that, of course, having then belonged to your parents, your forefathers,
It
etc.
depends on your community and your culture. And I think most people now sell land, especially with how the rates have gone up in surrounding areas of Nairobi. You'll find people sell land, but I don't think there was a rule. But I guess that would vary. It would differ from one community to another.
You are right, but part of the reason why that rule applied was they believed that ancestral land is where the ancestors were buried. Right. So you couldn't sell land which represented your ancestry.
But land didn't have the same value also. You didn't have
and
that
we want
demand for land, absolutely. Although there has been, I know, contentious issues at the coast with community land. Sorry, there's a phone call.
We've got Honorable Ikonya Martin Jonas from Githurai calling this morning. Good morning.
Honorable.
Good morning, Honorable Prince Eric Latif.
Good morning, Honorable Ikonya Martin Jonas. Welcome
morning.
to the Situation Room.
Good morning, also Honorable Prince, my dear friend City.
How are you, brother?
Honorable Princess Ndu.
Good morning.
Yes, pardon me to reach there.
There's also Honorable
Oh
Princess
no, I am a princess. Don't even worry about it.
Well, the prophecy does say prince and princesses shall step out of the yoke of Egypt.
All right. So,
Voila.
Jonas, you're calling in from Githurai this morning.
Yes, we Ethiopians shall stretch forth our hands and hearts unto God Most High, the God Rastafari.
All right. So we are discussing land. What do you say? What do you say about what we're talking about this morning?
I am about to tell you.
Yes.
I live in Githurai, 45. And I have gone to Ruiru, and I've gone to Thika. And they tell me I have no records of my land. And I am sure that from Githurai to Nganga, I collected the title deed and took it home. But anyway, I've gone all through all process. I've spoken to lawyers, and still there are no records for my land. So that is my situation today in Kenya today.
And what do the lawyers say?
The lawyers say what they say. What does the government say? They say I have no records. My neighbors do.
So you bought land and you got a title deed.
Excuse me, Honorable, whoever your name
Jerry.
is.
Jerry.
Okay, I mean, you know him because Jerry is my grandmother's assistant at home, my cousin. So what I mean is the record issue. Serikali tuambie nani mwenye title na nani sio mwenyewe. Because there is lawlessness going on around the place. Please, I need anybody's time. One love, Honorable Eric Latif.
One love, Honorable Jonas. Thank you very much, Jonas. Thank you for calling. Basically, what he's saying is what I just said. If you actually opened up the phone lines, people will call in and tell you, we are having issues with land. I've bought land. Records show that I don't have any land. Or there are no records indicating that I bought this land. And yet, I went through the whole process, due diligence, we went through the transfer, and this is it. It's an issue about the lands ministry.
Eric, you see, let's separate the problems. You're talking about the lands ministry and the issues. Now, this is a different discussion. You can even put a caveat on a piece of land you don't remove it, and the next time you visit the lands department, they tell you it was removed. And yes, but I'm the one who placed it, and I haven't removed it. So how could it be removed? If you're talking about the shenanigans,
we could talk for months.
No, that's a whole planetary system. Yes, yes, it's a whole. What I was looking at today, very specifically, is something which perhaps we should call some experts. We should call people who deal in land.
Land surveyors. People from the Lands Commission.
Yes, let's even call land officers. We have many of them who would be able to explain these things to us in detail and explain how these things come to arise, because this is one of the most emotive things we have in this country.
Definitely.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I think you emotive to the point where lives have been taken, lives have been threatened, until people are even scared right now to even talk about the fact that they own a particular piece of land for fear that something will be done to them. Or people have been halted from buying land because they've been told you cannot even touch this area, regardless of the fact that it's open area that you can actually go and put your bid to actually go and buy from the owner. But it is so emotive, it is so sensitive, and we ask ourselves, what's at the underbelly of all of this to say that it is such a hot issue? Land in this country is such a hot issue. Lives have been lost, people are scared, people have been jailed, families have been disrupted because of this one land issue.
Should we change our land tenure system?
Well, we should actually consider reforming it.
Reform.
Yes.
Reform.
There have been talks of reforming it. Talks. And more talks. Remember, the one thing that many Kenyans strive for is to have a piece of land you can call your own.
Yeah.
And many of them, that piece of land is ancestral land. So the beef doesn't start with outsiders. It's just within
the family.
Yes. Somebody encroaches on someone else's land, someone does the other, someone has sold.
Someone has moved
There's hardly anyone in this country who you'll speak of who will not tell you that they've had a problem with land at some point. And Eric was right. You open up the phone lines, people will call because people have had problems. And why I'm saying, let's demarcate these issues. What the land does and what we do on our own without the lands. Now, they come in as the official government body that is supposed to not just regulate, but is supposed to make official and above board these things that we refer to as transactions regarding land. And they also have unique problems that they contribute to the problems that already exist about land.
But then to finding solutions on these land disputes, because we've had land disputes that have gone on for decades. We've had even within the family cases where people have not been able to touch, build, construct anything on that land because of the fact that it is in court for years. Some of the cases, magistrates have even changed. Magistrates have retired, unfortunately passed away, and this land issue is still there.
If you want to know how complicated it is, there was some piece of land in Karen that was ostensibly owned by a former PC in this country called Mburu. And a gentleman called Dagama Rose bought it from the bank. Lo and behold, didn't issues arise about that land? The ownership, how the bank even got to own it.
Yep, the transfer.
It opened up a whole can of worms.
So let's open up the phone lines actually on what you're saying. 0719 012 600. We're talking about land, and CT is actually talking about personal responsibility when it comes to owning or transferring ownership of your land. What are your experiences on this, on personal responsibility as well? And let's also look at our land tenure system. This is something that the conversation has to happen. 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. This is the Situation Room.
Spice up your life. Traffic.
Well, if you're moving towards the airport, that is good news. If you're going in the opposite direction, sorry, as CT would say, because the Southern Bypass is totally blocked and traffic is not moving. People have used this as an alternative to get off Mombasa Road, but that in turn has decided to spew out its Monday blues, and I'm sorry, but you're not going anywhere right now. Trying to get off Mombasa Road using the Nyayo Stadium roundabout might be a better option right at this moment. All right. It's been complained that 10 traffic police officers at a city mortuary roundabout, and the traffic is still quite crazy. So maybe it's a coffee break right at the roundabouts. They'll be back, maybe. We'll see. GM is moving rather slowly, and that's because of the situation we see ahead at the bypass. Wayaki Way moving, getting into the city centre. It's better on Thika Road, much better than it was before. I told you, we'll get out of it soon enough. Be patient. 0719012600 is the number to call. Let us know if you find an alternate route or you see something totally out of the ordinary.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have Jerry Thorne, lawyer, political strategist, an insider in the corridors of power, ready to take on any side of the debate with her signature eloquence and grit. C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start
it's
your
2 minutes
day.
past 9 o'clock. Thank you very much for tuning The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation, as your morning companion. Well, we are talking about land, and we have opened up the phone line 0719-012-600, and right on cue, Roderick from Embakasi is calling in. Good morning, Roderick.
Good morning.
Yeah, you have an
Morning,
experience.
everyone.
Of this.
Good morning,
Good
Roderick.
morning.
Morning.
The rot in this country is at epic proportions, my friend.
Hmm.
I remember I lost land in Katani. There's a cartel in Katani where I had bought 2 parcels of land. Then unapewa back a mother title. You go to search it, the land ministry.
Eco.
Yes, this land is there.
Hmm.
But after 2 years, tukifanya kutaka kufanya fencing. We were chased on that land like a nonsense. Ile marungu tulikula hapo, my friend. I'm telling you.
Who was chasing you from the land?
The owner came. The owner came with thugs. I'm telling you, we saw it all. Let me tell you one thing. A title in this land, in this country, is just a piece of paper. Don't buy land in Nairobi and its environs. And if you're lucky to have land in the environs, Panda Miti, visit there after every weekend. You're there in your land and looking at it, or else you'll put a structure up.
Imeenda. Roderick, let's talk about personal responsibility when it comes to land.
Let's talk about
personal responsibility. Take us through what you did as a person. When you were buying this land, you identified the land. What did you do?
Okay, the problem is this. Kenyans were very gullible. Like for the problem with this, okay, I have some land somewhere that I bought in a very good way. But
so the other one was not a very good way.
The other one was not a good way.
This issue ya kusema atitanua shamba na ngoja title. Tuachana na hiyo upuzi. Because that's what we did. Kapewa certificate that this is a waiting certificate and all kind of nonsense. I'm telling you the truth. Even searching, tafadhali, just go search your land. Go make research, tafuta history. Even if it's possible, go to court. If that land, a piece of land has had court cases or anything.
Right.
Just go do your search. Sit down. Have a lawyer. Do everything. Exhaust everything. Even go to the police station of that area. Waambie kuna area shamba. Kesi ya shamba umeshailetewa hapa. If somebody amejenga hapo karibu, actually those are the people you need to contact first. Hii shamba umeshasikia mambo juu yake or anything. Do your search, exhaust it. Just don't rush it because the deal is too good. Because I'm hearing even there are some big companies hapa hivi zimekuwa zikiadvertise even on TV, they are having issues with plan. I don't want to name names hapa.
They prey on the gullibility of Kenyans.
Gullibility of Kenyans and our greed.
Okay.
But watu tafadhalini tu. Shamba afadhali ununue kwenu pale watu wanakujua. Imana kununua shamba in Nairobi because you want to stay here ama environs, chunga sana. Do your research before you enter into it, or else utaitisha maji ya kunywa.
What sort of research can one do? What are you suggesting here?
Such in the Ministry of Lands is not even enough. Talk to people around there, even if possible. Is there a way somebody can go into a court to find out if there are court cases? Is there some way?
Yes, you get that in the search as well, if there's any dispute.
You can go maybe do some search if there is court cases about certain piece of land or stuff. Just do it. Police stations, whatever. Just exhaust. Uliza kwa majirani and all that.
Okay.
Or else you will suffer.
Utaomba maji.
Land has cartels. These people will tell you that this land, yes, this land is there, it belongs to you. Because when I didn't go and do a search, it was, let me say the name of that company. It's Okimau Bright Homes. When I went to the Minister of Land, I went and asked there, yeah, this thing is here. They are here. Hiyo kitu hata mwenye hiyo shamba. My friend, that land was sold to 4 people. Before you realize.
Pole sana Rodrick.
Funding for 20 years.
Thank you very much, Rodrick. Thank you for your sharing your experiences this morning and also the words of advice there. The personal responsibility is important. Asante sana, have a good day. And that's what CT you were saying. When it comes to people, what do you do to ensure that you are holding a worthy piece of paper?
You know what I find interesting? This is a very valuable community, and people save and scrimp, and they do all sorts of things. And yet, you are careless in the process of acquiring it. This news about problems with land, it's not new. People know it. Even the rural areas, people know it. For instance, it's like going to rural areas, you don't involve the chief, you don't involve the elders. And then you have a problem. There is no you involve these people. These are all locals. So even if your father dies, those people, some of them will be alive. They'll say, no.
They know the history.
We know how this was. And even then, the agreements are written before the chief, and people have copies of those agreements. And all the people who are present, their names are there. And there's evidence that this thing happened. But people get careless.
This Wazir has actually formed the Lands Board.
They do.
Right? They sit there. And
they do.
In some cases, you hear somebody has actually gone through that entire process, gone to the Lands Board, acquired this piece of land, and then a couple of years later, the sons or the inheritors, the heirs of this person come and say, no. Mzee did not intend to sell you that piece of land. And yet, it went through that entire process. So there, you're exposed. What do you do about that?
Yeah, I think it's a bit unfair on CT to assert that the buyer needs to do more than he's doing. We need to be able to rely on our institutions, on our commissions, on the services that government provide. We don't walk in expecting them to be corrupt.
Jerry, but they are corrupt. So what are you asking us
we should be putting the onus is on them to stop being corrupt. It's not on us. What more can you do as an individual who's buying land? You take a lawyer, you do your searches, and then a government office tells you, yes, this is fine. What more could you possibly do? You're suggesting this out of office sort of go and speak to the community.
Are you not the same person who was asking, we're talking about the Likoni disaster, what does a Mwananchi do? I am stating it now. Because this is personal. It is you buying this piece of land. You should leave no stone unturned.
So basically what you're saying is if we went through the entire process ourselves, then we'd force the relevant officers to actually do their job.
That's what look, even if it is a lawyer you've given the work and you follow through and said, have you done this? Meaning, if it's that important, then take it seriously and follow it through. Because the reality is the land ministry is corrupt.
The reality is you can be conned as well, no matter what you do.
Yes, but at least you'll have done due diligence. Many people
so you'll tire yourself out and lose money.
Stop being gullible, stop being greedy as well. Yeah, Rodrick is saying.
Well, he did say about the titles that aren't out. Perhaps that's the best advice we've had today when you're buying land because it's slightly cheaper, but the title deeds aren't out. You're waiting for them, you get a certificate and what have you. You can get some dodgy dealers there.
Oh, yeah.
Be careful when you're buying land. That's what we're saying this morning. We've seen these cases. We've heard of these cases. They are all over the country. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Our telephone lines 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's 9:10.
How well do you know your country? Given a chance, where would you go? Not so many places, huh? Would you even know how to get there? Yes? No? Maybe? I don't know. Well, oh ye gallivanters and tourists alike, here is your chance to not only know, but also visit amazing destinations in Kenya with complete recommendations, guides, and tips on accommodation spots, wellness stops, and food joints all over Kenya. How, you ask? Courtesy of the biggest locally targeted tours and travel magazine, Travelogue. Travelogue is your monthly pull-out magazine in the Standard newspaper every first Thursday of the month. With Travelogue, enjoy the beauty of life that Kenya has to offer. Visit exotic and hidden destinations, be part of amazing conservation campaigns and projects as you simply enjoy Kenya. It's our way of putting Kenya on the map. Grab your copy and be aboard the fun wagon as you improve the quality of your local travel experiences. Travelogue, Jione Kenya.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
What do you think this means for Kenya, sir?
This breaking under 2 hours, I call it means a lot in Kenya. Yesterday, the whole country came into standstill. The day before yesterday, then I received an important call from the head of state. That's the President Uhuru Kenyatta. I received from the ministers. I was with the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya here to give me more and more help. And I can tell you that the whole country was celebrating. I can say breaking under 2 hours was actually a unifying factor in the whole country. And I trust that Kenya will be in unity. Kenya in future will be a running nation.
That's our man for the week, our man for the year, Eliud Kipchoge. I mean, we can't stop celebrating this man. And if we stop, then we are not being fair to ourselves, because this is a man who went out there and he represented Kenya. The question that is being asked there is, what does this mean for Kenya? He's been asked, of course, about what it means to the world, what it means to mankind, and bring it down home. What does it mean for Kenya? This is a big thing. So this is what we keep doing throughout this show. We've had a wonderful weekend as Kenyans. Let's always remember to celebrate that, right?
Absolutely. He's put Kenya on the global platform, of course. I think we really need to capitalize on this as Kenyans, especially sort of the Ministry of Tourism. We could have had a lot more out there to coincide with people. You know, people had their eye on Kenya during this time. And I hope we can somehow manage to keep this spirit going for a little longer. It doesn't end, you know, today or tomorrow. I don't know how we're going to do this. There's marketers out there and people who understand these things. But if we can capitalize on this a little more, especially when it comes to tourism, people are looking at us at the moment. It's wonderful to hear our national anthem play at these events and so on. And also, let's give him maximum respect when he gets back to do what he's done. Everybody was watching Kenya. Everybody was talking about Kenya. That's amazing.
You know, to the point where we had two Kenyans win a very significant marathon, and no one even seemed to notice.
Exactly.
One actually broke a record.
Yes, she did.
One hardly seemed to notice. These are big things. These are world events. These are not tribal events. They're not.
They're not small-time, localized events.
No. They're international events. But if you look at how do you pronounce that petrochemical company?
INEOS.
Okay. That one, I had to get it right. I knew it was INEOS. Yes, I knew it was INEOS, but now that you told me it's INEOS, okay. Now, look at the spirited campaign they put up, step by step by step by step by step. Someone will say, foreign company. No. Not too long ago, the central bank did something equally significant when they were talking about 1,000 shilling note, step by step by step by step, to the point where you couldn't say you did not know you should hand in the whole 1,000 shilling note.
Because they were?
They were
deliberate.
They were
deliberate.
Are you two having a moment here? So the what?
Deliberate.
Jerry.
Because they saw the, you know what? They saw the end from the beginning.
Yep.
They knew where they wanted to go.
And they worked
and
towards
they
that.
worked towards it. And you can replicate that across board. And we can. You know, we keep asking, what can the people do? And I think Eliud himself said this when he was giving his last press conference before he left, or I think when he did arrive. And he said, you know what, not just me as an athlete, but you as a journalist, you as a lawyer,
as a
you
matatu
as a
driver.
matatu driver, you can actually pursue and break barriers in everything that you do. We keep asking, what can we do? This is what you can do.
You can
Be the
purpose
best
to
at the
excel.
thing. Purpose to excel and be deliberate about getting maximum optimized results in the thing that you,
You know,
do.
the PR department that Ineos did a fantastic
job. Of
I mean,
course.
I listened to him. He even brought in Roger Bannister into the discussion. I
Right.
said, okay.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yes. Sincerely, if you're looking for examples to emulate,
this is one.
We saw it.
Absolutely.
Now, you tell me, what is to stop Brand Kenya? These two athletes who did wonderful things in Chicago.
To pick it up.
Yes.
This is it. This is it for Brand Kenya and the Kenya Tourism Board. They have said it, and I've seen conversations online over the weekend, you know, Brand Kenya and Kenya Tourism Board and people in the industry saying, you know, this was a private event. It was sponsored by a private organization, by a private company.
A
It was
private
actually
event.
owned by, you know.
And that's why all those
It
people...
was a
global
event.
What are they talking about?
A global, it was global. And whatever the private company did, yes, they took up the mantle, but they allowed everybody else to come in.
Do you see the
When we saw
Kenyan love for
locally,
talk and excuses? And it was a private event.
So that's why we couldn't do what
so
we
I
did.
mean, we couldn't hop on.
So let's
as
look
a
at the way
government
forward.
to
How can we capitalize on this?
First
as
of all,
Kenyans?
remove everyone who works in Brand Kenya.
Oh,
Number
Lord.
one.
You just start there.
No, you can't beat them. They've done a good job in it.
What exactly?
Brand Kenya. Don't confuse them with KTB. Brand Kenya.
Brand Kenya.
Yes.
No, I can't think off the top of my head. So
Something
they have
which
done a
doesn't
good
exist
job.
is difficult to think of.
We
So
should.
wha-
That's the thing,
so-
though. We should
but
be able to. We
positively
shouldn't have to
speaking-
think. We shouldn't have
positively
to think
speaking
to
in
look
terms
for
of
them.
To retain that
solutions. How can we
positivity.
capitalize on
To
this
retain that positivity. If you look at what's
on a
Safaricom-
global platform and internally?
In fact, internally. Let's even start just internally.
Mhm.
What Kenyans were feeling on Saturday as they were watching that, everybody felt Kenyan.
So
It
beers
didn't
should remain
matter.
at 159. Is that what you're saying?
There was that. you see, we saw that. We saw the celebrations around it. We saw what Safaricom did, you know, even beaming that thing on KICC,
Mhm.
saying this is a Kenyan who's going there, changing their logo into that. But also...
Now, the way Safaricom, this is what I want us to get to, the way Safaricom capitalized on it and stole some light from it, so to speak. And
They didn't
no,
steal
okay,
it. They
well,
bought the light.
They bought some, yes. What
They
can
localized the light.
what can Kenya as a brand internationally do that is similar, and what can we as Kenyans do in order to fully capitalize on it? Because it would be such a wasted moment. I mean, the Brits still talk about 1966 when they won the football, and that's across the media, and they still celebrate that. That's 1966. Here we are, 2019, and we're going to forget this within less than a week.
How about if we change our tagline? You see, in KTB, the tagline is Magical Kenya.
Mhm.
Somebody was saying, let's change it for a bit to be the land of champions, or something like that. Just so that it reminds everybody when you're talking about Kenya is a land of champions. And then they increase that visibility and push for Kenya globally.
And internally, he himself said he's a unifying factor. How can we capitalize on that, do you think?
We raise him. What we were discussing last week on Friday, give him the highest honors. The one that's reserved for heads of state, commander-in-chief. Chief of the Order of the Golden Heart, CGH. Only presidents have had it before.
Do you think we can get him into the studio when he gets back to the country?
We should
perhaps?
try. That's what
Yeah.
we're working on that.
Excellent.
Bring him here. But also just give him that. CGH. Somebody else was saying, on the day that he comes in, you know, close down the airspace. Just ensure that there's only one plane that's coming to land at JKIA, and this is the plane that's carrying Eliud Kipchoge. Let him be escorted by military jets. He's a military officer after all. Let him be escorted by military jets. Let him land. Let everybody feel that our son has come home. Let's not just forget.
Yeah,
and,
he
you know,
did
say
give
him
the country a feel-good factor, a much-needed feel-good factor after quite a few sort of incidents and atrocities that week.
You know, I think also what he did is that he injected a certain feeling of being able to achieve. And that was something that ran through for everybody. It was kind of like the whole Obama campaign when he said, yes, we can. Whether you're in the United States or not, you actually felt that, yes, you could, regardless of what it is that you were doing. And for Eliud at this point, when he ran this race and was actually, because you had the run up to the race where everybody was saying, is he actually going to do it? And then he actually scaled the heights and then he crossed the barrier and said, you can actually do it. And so you had everybody, apart from celebrating this man, actually having a sense of this thing that is before me, I can actually scale it and I can actually do it, and that he was able to do. But I think also in terms of what we can do to capitalize on this moment, we need to constantly keep our eyes open, whether as individuals independent, whether as individuals within the private sector, whether as individuals who work in the public sector for the government, etc., etc. There are opportunities that are bound. And I'm sure that even now, companies like this, INEOS, other companies, are waiting because they know that there will be other opportunities that come where they can capitalize. We have to wear the same glasses and look through those lenses and say there are opportunities because it's here, it's born, bred here in Kenya. It's
ours.
It's here. Own it. We've first of all got to own it. Unfortunately, somebody else owned it for us at that point, and it can be owned, and we have to take on a sense of ownership. Once you own it, the opportunities then will come through. They do.
Let me take in this call from Samuel. Samuel, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was great from Eliud Kipchoge.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think deep down his heart that he believes that there is a time and a season for everything. And he was aware of the fact that if you can dream it, you can achieve
do it.
And whatever the mind can conceive, man can achieve.
Right.
The impossible things just take a little bit longer to get done. And I just congratulate him that he made us proud, and he will be celebrated generation to come, because he has just left a footprint of sand in human hearts and in human history.
Samuel, what do you think we should do, or we should do as a country to keep this vibe going?
We should build, we should buy the training facilities and build a stadium so that our athletes should have that good facilities for training for the generation to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Asante sana, Samuel.
It's definitely inspirational as well. If you listen to some of his words, very profound, and I think got the nation quite moved when he talks about no man is unlimited and so on. Clearly inspired everybody. But what I really like about this is as well, Kenyans are united, and there's no talk of money, how much money he made. And we, for the first time in a long time, we've been moved away from this wealth acquisition and respecting that, isn't it? It's the first time I'm feeling we're respecting somebody for something they've achieved, and it's not to do with having bought a big Prado and so on, which is what we've been doing in Kenya. So maybe it touched on something that was a previous value of ours as Kenyans that's inherent. It's about discipline and something quite different. No one is talking about whether he's wealthy or not, which usually comes across in any praise we have for somebody. I thought that was quite nice.
Do they manufacture small Prados?
But did you notice that? There was no wealth discussion around him. There was no show of wealth or power. It was purely inspirational from within, intrinsic.
Is there something like sports tourism?
There is.
There is. It's not practiced here, though.
No, it's
It is.
It's There's a camp in Iten for the runners.
Yep.
And it's the high altitude that appeals to them, because supposedly that's what builds up the aptitude or the strength.
We saw people running in Doha. So it doesn't have to be limited to a high altitude place.
No, in Iten, because of this is where they are bred. This is where they.
Yes.
So we use that as a sports tourism facility.
I think
However,
I think you
not
understand
the
where I'm
government.
going with this. Yes, because you see, when people come to Kenya, they don't just go to the national park. No. They go to the beaches.
They go to beach.
Yes, they also come to town.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
They should go to Iten. It should be part of our circuit. That's what you're saying.
I am saying that,
Good point.
and then some.
Good
and I'm
point.
saying that the facilities you have,
use them.
just like we've had in investments. Oh, we have a caller?
Wesley, good morning.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome
How
to
are
the
you?
Situation Room. Asante sana for joining us.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Your message about Eliud Kipchoge.
Yes, Eliud Kipchoge. I think as Kenyans, first is just to congratulate this gentleman.
And then I think there are three things that as Kenyans we could draw from the victory that Kipchoge had. The first one is the political capital out of it. It shows very clearly that Kenyans can be united in a cause.
Absolutely.
And it looks like what we have in Kenya is a leadership problem. If somebody like that can rally us, together from every part, it looks like all we need is just to be able to find a common ground to be able to rally our people together. And that, of course, I realized I missed up the point. I did not get across to say the political intrigue that I realized we have, in our country. Maybe I'll contribute that tomorrow. The whole issue about what I think the president is doing. It looks like he's with a plan. He's having a plan to be able to dismantle the Luo Kalenjin, Luo Kalenjin Kikuyu axis, and to bring in other players very, very carefully to bring the Matiang'i factor, bring the Gideon Moi factor, all that. And I think that we can be able to see even through the handshake. It is possible to bring people together if matters are done well. But the second lesson I think we have to do is, it is one of the things that I realize we have missed out in this nation is the whole issue about the development of potential that we have in this nation, beginning from the Krando. Because sincerely speaking, I think Kipchoge is not one of those people that have gone to the university and gotten a master's or a doctorate. But the potentialities that we have for Kenyans, and this can, this CBC, maybe if it is well handled, we could be able to get the potentialities of every Kenyan that we can build up, and not, try to depict like if you're academically oriented, you are better than the person who can run, or somebody who can be able, to even some of the politics we have and the business acumen. It's not people who have gone through the academic system. Although I'm doing a doctorate myself, but I would want us all to believe that the human potential that is there is not literally just dictated by the academic.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and then finally, I think one of the things that I'm noting about Kipchoge's win is that I think the whole thing about the I don't know how to put it, but the whole thing about the belief system that, causing people to believe that something is possible. Of course, it's not everything that we can be able to do, definitely. But we can be able to gain and set goals, like what we talk about performance appraisals, where you actually are able to identify that I am capable. Like, for instance, he did not say that he was going to do ASAP 1.5. He said ASAP 1.59 because that is what he thought at this time he could be able to do. And we can set goals and push ourselves
to that.
And be able to do them.
Wesley, thank you very much, Wesley, for your call this morning.
Thank you.
Ronald, good morning.
Good morning, Eric, and good morning, Jerry, City, and No.
Good morning.
Yes, so I think I'm home today. With this topic, I'm home today. For the first time, we are addressing something that can actually pan us round. Here we have someone who is so self-effacing, but achieving milestones that hitherto no one thought could be possible. It was as if the whole world came to a standstill in anticipation of his failure, not his success. We were waiting to see if he can really make it. And then he has made it, and he's brought out the best in all of us.
Right.
We are now speaking of possibilities.
What should we do to make sure that we maintain this momentum?
Two things. One is the issue of branding.
Yep.
If you look at what City has been talking about, the way Ineos went through the process of building up excitement to that moment.
Right.
We can do so with anything else. We can turn our politics around.
Absolutely.
And brand ourselves in a different way.
And brand ourselves and have politics devoid of animosity as we are seeing now.
Who should take the lead on this?
Each one of us. It's not about looking for one person to do it. Each one of us should take responsibility for it. Of course, the few that are already in positions of influence, like you, I mean, media houses, our industry leaders, industry captains, people in different quarters, in the academia, in the directors and the producers in the movie industry,
and the other professions as well.
The other professions. If you can tie these up with what you were talking about early in the morning about Likoni and the ferry and how we have solutions and we are not handling them. For the first time, the same guy, that fella whom we've seen has failed, has an opportunity to rise up to the occasion and say, gentlemen and ladies, I've failed. This is what needed to be done. I'm taking responsibility.
Right.
Give me an opportunity to do it.
Exactly.
We don't have to. We don't have to have a Jesus-like situation. You don't have to sacrifice you.
Yeah.
I think what
Thank
Elliot's
you.
managed to do is raise what we
Thank
call
you very much, Rono. Have a good day.
You too.
What he's managed to do is raise what we call the nation's consciousness. And this can be capitalized on politically, socially, from a sort of commercial perspective for Kenya and its brand and tourism. And hopefully we can do this. Politically, very important. If you listen to everybody calling, they're talking about the unifying factor. And if leaders can actually use this, and then it makes you wonder, and you start to wonder, are we actually not tribal and we're made tribal by our leaders for elective purposes?
But we've said this before.
Food for thought.
0719-012-600. This morning we are celebrating our Kenyans, Eliud Kipchoge, Bridget Kosgei, and of course also the gentleman who won the marathon yesterday. What's his name?
Lawrence Cherono.
Lawrence Cherono as well. And what that means to us as a country. Good morning. 28 minutes to 10 o'clock.
How well do you know your country? Given a chance, where would you go? Not so many places, huh? Would you even know how to get there? Yes? No? Maybe? I don't know. Well, oh ye gallivanters and tourists alike, here is your chance to not only know, but also visit amazing destinations in Kenya with complete recommendations, guides, and tips on accommodation spots, wellness stops, and food joints all over Kenya. How, you ask? Courtesy of the biggest locally targeted tours and travel magazine, Travelog. Travelog is your monthly pull-out magazine in the Standard newspaper every first Thursday of the month. With Travelog, enjoy the beauty of life that Kenya has to offer. Visit exotic and hidden destinations, be part of amazing conservation campaigns and projects as you simply enjoy Kenya. It's our way of putting Kenya on the map. Grab your copy and be aboard the fun wagon as you improve the quality of your local travel experiences. Travelog, Jione Kenya. Tired of living your same old life? Need to spice it up and add some flavor? Well, we can help you go from living to living it up. East Africa, are you ready to be a part of the most vibrant entertainment scene with the best, freshest music, travel tips and destinations, fashion, tech and health trends, as well as your favorite celebrities' lifestyles? Introducing your favorite entertainment magazine, Pulsar, the ultimate all-in-one guide that will give you more meaning to life. Catch up with your celebrity writers and contributors to stay up to date with what's happening around you, where and how you can be a part of all that. The lifestyle guide that has been missing in your life. Pulsar. Live it up.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
The traffic lights all the way to Nyayo Stadium. I know fit me as I am. I know fit. All right, what else is happening? Gong Road. The Japanese who began their road construction in 2018 will be done by January 2020. Meanwhile, phase 3 of Ngong Road looks like it will be completed in 2022. So, project your traffic issues until 2022 is what we're saying on Gong Road. It's not about to get any better, and we still have some time. All right, getting round to 10 o'clock this morning, looking at the roads, everything is happening as it normally should, except for the issue that we have with the Southern Bypass, where traffic is bumper to bumper, on top of bumper, under bumper. So it's quite bad this morning. Coming out of Thika Road, Langata Road, and Gong Road, well, not so bad. It's as expected this morning. 0719-012-600. That's the number. Call us. You see anything out of the ordinary, let us know. We'll keep you moving this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Thank you very much for tuning and joining us this morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Ndu Oko, Jerry Thorne, C.T. Muga, and I'm Eric Latif. Jerry, you look raring to go, like raring.
I was just thinking, of course, he'll receive a hero's welcome, but that's short-lived. It's got a short shelf life, especially in our memories. And if we want to retain this nation's consciousness in the way it's been risen and really get maximum out of this, maybe he needs to be given a position in leadership so that we see and hear from him a lot more regularly and we have some input. If discipline is his thing, integrity is his thing, maybe we can inject that into our leadership. So perhaps a position in the sports ministry could be one way to make sure that we keep this going.
What if he's not interested in that?
Well, I mean, we can't force him.
Because I'm thinking,
if we can't force him to
Debbie
do that,
Downer, Eric.
well, if we can't force him to do that, I think that we have brilliant communication minds in this country who unfortunately are not seen a lot of times. And I think there are very, very many messages that can be picked up from the things that he said over the last 2 weeks. And those messages can be used.
Can be repackaged.
And they can be repackaged to be put all around the country on different platforms to get people to remember really what it is that he did and the message that he has, because the message did not end with him crossing that barrier on Saturday, and the message can be proliferated even further time and time again. Why do we remember Yes You Can until today? And this was a 2008 campaign strategy by Barack Obama. Why do we remember it till today? It's not because he said it. It was, and then it ended. He said it over and over and over again. His campaign communications team used it over and over again. It was plastered all over the country until it became a slogan used by very many organizations, even within the United States. And then guess what? It spilled over beyond the borders and globally, it was then used as a slogan, basically to push on that message that, you know what, yes, you can actually. So from what Eliud did and what he said, even before he ran,
is limited.
There are very many messages that he put out. And even the brand Kenya that we're talking about till tomorrow, there are many things that they can pick up to then propel the country and raise its profile outside of the borders, using the words of a great Kenyan man who was able to do something that no human has ever done before.
Yes.
And that message can be used to push it forward.
Oscar, good morning, calling in from Gong.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
How is everyone there?
Good morning. Oscar.
Good. Odijo, Mambo?
Who?
Odijo.
Odijo.
Is there somebody here we don't know about?
You're
the fifth
Odijo.
person in the room.
Oscar, thank you very much. Who is Odijo?
Sixth sense.
Odijo is you. No one else can be Odijo. I told you were my teacher.
Odijo is only one.
Odijo means teacher.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Ah, okay. Please send me the software for that particular conversation so that I can
download.
Odijo is well.
Now, allow me to say something about an initial talk before I go into Eliud.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Jerry was bringing up the issue of paying back or returning favors. I want her to think also on the promises that those that are in power made to the Kenyans. And if they fulfilled that, then they should come and say, we as Kenyans should say they owe us.
Right.
Yeah.
They're indebted to us, yeah.
It's not just about handing power from person A to B because their dad was this or that, but they also they owe us something.
Okay.
A lot.
Good point. Good point.
If they haven't delivered, they have no right to point to us elsewhere where we are going to be given the same promises that will never materialize.
Okay.
Yeah, now, that aside.
To our athletes.
Yes, to our athletes, first and foremost, I want to join all the Kenyans in congratulating Eliud for the feat that he achieved.
Right.
And there's one thing I picked from him. That guy is really focused.
Mm-hmm.
I like his philosophical statements.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at himself as a person to do something. But having said that, I want to bring this back home to the situation that we are facing in the next few weeks. That our students will be sitting for exams.
Right.
And we expect them to excel just like Eliud excelled, isn't it?
Yes, we do.
Look at the conditions under which Eliud achieved that. The people who were organizing the race chose the most easiest course to allow him to achieve that. They sat down and planned that we need this number of pacemakers. And these pacemakers, maybe everyone was told, you will only do 5 kilometers, but this are your timings.
Yes.
They provided even a vehicle that I'm very sure. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and he's saying, who knows, the vehicle was pumping oxygen as it is. So what I'm trying to say is, as we congratulate, and because first and foremost, it must have been in his mind that he's going to give it a shot. Remember when he was being interviewed, he said he's going to try. So that bit of saying, I'm going to try, was good enough from him as a person.
Yeah, it was a good start.
Yes, that himself was a good position, that he said he's going to try. If he tried it the other time, 2 years ago, and he never failed, and he never brought him down.
Yep.
He looked, maybe he went back to his drawing board and said, okay, what did I miss? What would I put in to make sure that my chances are pushed up into achieving this? So what I'm saying is, there are a lot of things that we can do as a nation. There are a lot of things that people can achieve as individuals. And so, for that matter, we only need to give people conducive environments. In a week's time, Magoha will be going round, including in Kilifi and Tana River, where students are going to sit exams in tents that they have borrowed from WFP when they were taking Food Aid.
Yeah.
In classes that do not have, even the basic of infrastructure. How then do you expect them to excel in their own talent the way Eliud excelled? So basically, when people are provided with conditions that are conducive, they can do that. So that's my take.
Asante
All
sana.
in all, I congratulate Eliud for what he's... And of course,
Oscar,
for Bridget.
don't forget Bridget and Lawrence as well.
And I'll say, you only cut me short. I was saying, and Bridget, and who else?
And Lawrence.
Okay.
Lawrence Cherono.
And we need to build this as a culture. Some years back, our cricket team was doing very well. I think then we hadn't thought that we could be congratulating. It was just a moment. 5 minutes, we've said, oh, we shangilia, and then it goes. Yeah, you never know. Maybe those are the things that brought down the morale of those people who are playing cricket and everything, apart from the other issues that came up.
Asante sana, Oscar. Have a good day.
Thank you, Oscar.
Passionate about the environment and behavioral change, which is interesting, creating a conducive environment to ensure you get your desired outcome, and putting that onto the upcoming exams. Is it exams coming up?
Yep.
In
Upcoming
November.
exams.
Yeah, but maybe a conducive environment to encourage people. So interesting perspective, definitely.
Had anybody come across this term Odijo?
Yes.
What does it mean?
Odijo means teacher. It's basically Sheng.
Sounds naughty.
And
then.
it's actually old Sheng. It's Oscar's time Sheng.
It seems to have left you perplexed.
No.
You didn't hear them saying Odijo?
No, it's the constant reference to old.
Odijo.
Oh, that's what
So
has
it
left
means
you
the
perplexed.
teacher.
No, that hasn't left me perplexed.
Take a compliment, CT. So
I am taking a compliment.
Your students remember you, and they remember you fondly.
I get that impression.
Good.
Yes.
Leave it at that.
Yes.
Everything else is secondary.
Speaking of teachers and our national heroes, of course, we had the priest who received that award again,
Yes.
with Global Platform, bringing global eyes to Kenya. What have we done with him in terms of keeping that momentum going and appreciating him and utilizing what he has to offer?
Nothing apart from just meeting him, the CS meeting him.
I think he
going
met with
back home.
Trump at some point.
Yeah, but that's not us. That's Trump.
Right. Okay. So even Trump knows to capitalize on
that's
it.
actually the organization that took him to Trump. In Kenya, locally, what have we seen? We've seen the CS for sports and culture. Yes, we've seen the governor of Nakuru. Yes, but beyond that,
I think maybe also media
think we
can
also met
take
the
it
president.
further and make sort of films about these things or series about it or documentaries about it, so we can capture it further and make sure everybody sees it and go into more depth as to the backstory and so on. So I think that's the role media can play, and of course the publicity, the airtime, make sure there's a lot of interviews, get his message out there. But that's short-lived, okay, other than maybe a
that's
movie about
something
him.
that Brand Kenya can actually
That's
do.
short-lived.
Because
What
that's
more
it.
can we do? Well, Brand Kenya is more for the marketing aspect in terms of getting him out there to
That
sell our name.
visibility, yes.
Absolutely,
Can you
it's
imagine
important.
if they sponsored a
But
proper
what about
documentary on that?
internally, in terms of if he can unify us, lift our morale the way he did? Everybody over the weekend was excited. You could feel a sense of happiness, the feel-good factor I talk about. Everybody had that. If you could do that to a nation consistently, you'd actually increase the economic output. As in, there's really good things that can come out of this. We've done so much with NCIC, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, and they've tried so many different things, hate speech and how to curb that.
This is theirs as well. Let them take this up, right?
Do you think they will?
Cohesion and integration. This actually works very well for them. Can you imagine?
What would they do
if
with
you
him?
actually became
Just
their,
even
their
as a
ambassador?
messenger.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Their goodwill ambassador
Mhm.
for NCIC. This is about cohesion.
This
and
is something that
integration
he
of
could do,
Kenyans.
actually. And I think we know for a fact that government bodies employ PPPs or public-private partnerships. They do that so they can hear from the private sector in terms of what needs to be done. But if we can draw parallels between these two, this teacher that you brought up, I keep forgetting his name, but you see, then again, if
It
we
was
can
called
draw
Tabiti.
yes, if we can draw parallels between what he did to have received this global acclaim and what Eliud did, it was everyday, habitual things that got this result. And even when we talk about the environment that was created, even Tabiti himself, what environment did he work in? He did not work in some glamorous international school. No, he did not. He was in a school in the rural area. But the habits that he developed over time, pursuing excellence in everything that he did, making sure that his subjects, in these cases, the students that he taught, were taught with the very best that he had to offer, making sure that no stone went unturned in the pursuit of excellence. That is what got him noticed. Those are the same attributes that got
We're
Eliud
looking
Kipchoge
for.
noticed.
Yes.
That he
0719.
trained and he used everything that he could to meet that excellence. And that is what needs to be taken apart and people need to grasp onto, that will get this euphoria going that Jerry is talking about.
So 0719 012 600 from Kisumu. This is Kilan. Good morning, Kilan.
Oh, good morning, guys. How you doing?
Very
Morning,
well, thanks.
Keelan. You're right.
What a wonderful way of projecting things you have brought this morning. Actually, we have lost something here, my guys. Jerry, let me start with you. In the issue of giving back into the debt and stuff, I think that's a story for another day. I think I will engage. But now the subject that you brought, this is something that is touching my soul that I really need to touch on. First and foremost, I want to give credit to what one single Kenyan did to inspire the entire globe, the entire planet, that there is more to a man than what a man can see. What Kipchoge did was outstanding, and honestly, in the world of history, it stands out alone.
Right.
Again, when we are looking at this again, we realize that Boston also went away. So this was a Kenyan weekend globally.
Absolutely.
And now when we bring it back home, we'll only realize that we're only talking about one, and we're not talking about the three of them that brought us to
We're saving them for tomorrow and the day after.
We actually still also mentioning them.
We'll keep this going.
Yes. So one thing that at least this country really needs to know, that we can as well get back and get to see where we went wrong and make it right and focus ahead. Like, for example, I had one of you saying that Brand Kenya is about marketing. Let me tell you one thing. The greatest thing in the world is about market. And if we can market Kenya positively in different disciplines and get somewhere, we are going to focus. We are going to have a focused generation. I'm so disappointed when the generation that is referred to as in Kenya, there's an insult called hustler. The hustler generation should not listen to this. But what I'm talking about is what the hustler generation should listen to, because it took Kipchoge quite some time to hit that 159.
Yep.
You know, it means he's a meritocrat. He's an achiever. He went and toiled for it. He's trained for it. He focused for it. He dreamt it. I mean, he's all.
It wasn't an accident.
You know, it was not. It wasn't an accident. You know, and progressively we realized that last year he did a 2 hour 26 seconds. You know.
Yes.
So he shattered this. He squeezed the 26 seconds by another 20 seconds. You know, when you look at that, so he was 40 seconds ahead of his previous time. This tells us that you can achieve it. And even his word was very philosophical, that no human is limited. You know, but when we are looking at all these, my guys, then you realize that the kind of thing we should be doing in Kenya for people, not athletes alone. I am talking as a hockey player. If you ask anybody out there, what killed hockey in Kenya was five things.
Absolutely.
By the time I was playing hockey, Kenya was number 1 in Africa and was ranked in the top 10 in the world. You know, but it was abused, and this thing was washed away. People lost interest in hockey, and today you talk about Kisumu, nobody talks about hockey. You know.
Yeah.
But the number 1 game in Kisumu was hockey. Anybody else in the Republic, no. And I remember in 1988, Africa was playing Asia, and Kisumu produced 8 players for Africa. You know, that is not just a mistake.
It's true.
You know?
Killan, thank you very much. I think you've raised very, very
pertinent
strong points and
there.
very good points.
Yeah, and he touches on the value system we speak about. I think what we need to do is start glorifying these achievements so that people aspire to them. These are the intrinsic values, the idea of discipline, and move away from this wealth acquisition. And you could see him saying that, the caller that is, where he talks about forget this hustler nation. This is what we were about, where hard work pays off. I think somewhat and very subtly and subliminally, there is that message in what Eliud did. And this is why you see Kenyans coming together. There's something from the past of who we were previously, how you can work to achieve something, because that seems to be been taken away from us, where, you know, there's all these get-rich-quick schemes, tenderpreneuring, a lot of theft, and people are gaining a lot of respect and recognition from it. Now, where that recognition comes from is the media. So if we as the media stop glorifying wealth acquisition as we do, maybe we can then focus on discipline and some of the values that you see entrenched in Eliud and what he emulates in terms of, you heard some of his quotes, very profound, talking about no one is unlimited and the idea of being disciplined and therefore not being a slave to your passions and moods. So if we, the media, can encapsulate that and start to push that out more, as opposed to sort of pushing out, you know, TV programs where people are driving the latest cars, wearing the hottest wigs and so on, because we do socialize our people. So it's a great opportunity if we were to take it very seriously and, to use Ndu's words, be very deliberate about it.
You have been converted, and I am very happy about that.
But yeah, an interesting one. I think everybody's hearts and minds were touched by this guy. So hopefully we can capitalize it on more ways than one. You're quiet, CT. Say something.
Well, yes, you see, I am actually marveling at how this rot that we keep speaking of has robbed us of so much more than we actually realize. I remember the time that gentleman was speaking of. Kenya was right up there with Pakistan and India when it came to hockey. We were a force to reckon with, genuinely. We've been a force to reckon with in almost every area of sport. And if you look at the sports we succeed in, it isn't government support. Not really. These are the elites. It's not government support.
True. In fact, if government came in, then that would be the end of it.
Now, you see, when we all can chime in and more or less say the same thing and say,
then
because we know.
Yeah.
It means something.
Yes.
Maina Kengangi is calling in from Limuru. Maina, good morning.
Maina and
Good
Kingangi?
morning. Maina Kingangi. This is not Maina and Kingangi.
This is Maina.
No, that was a joke. Go ahead.
Okay.
Good morning.
Yes, Maina.
All right.
He's calling in from Limuru. I think he's going to call back
again.
Yes. You were saying this is about individuals actually coming together and also getting supported.
Yes, if you think about it and look at the individual efforts, because at every point in time, look at our volleyball team. You'll find there is one individual. There's the association, yes. But there's one individual
who stands out.
Yes, who stands out
Absolutely.
in what he has done for the sport.
Or she, in this case, for the women's volleyball team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, all I'm saying is, if the government support, even if it was just a little more by 10%, how much further would we be? Because the government's participation in sport is parasitic.
You think they suck the life out
Yes,
of them?
they leech. In fact, they leech. They stick themselves into it, and then they suck out.
If you just look at
yes.
if you just look at the contingent that went to Rio, for example, you had the same number of officials as you did the teammates who were going.
How is that
I
possible?
mean, really, what are we talking about? What really are we talking about? And it has to. This is not a doing thing. It's a thinking thing. It's a mind
But
shift.
let's.
It
I
really
want
is
us
a
to.
mind
I
shift
want
that
us
needs to happen.
to end on a high note. We seem to complain about government all the time.
We
but
should not
I
stop
don't think we
complaining
should
about the
use
government.
Eliud. Well, I think we should, for today, let's maintain that feel-good factor. It's good to remember that, yes, this is who we were and something has been lost, but let's maintain and uphold that sort of national consciousness that he brought about over the weekend, because we complain about the government
But that's
every day,
what we're
CT.
doing. The
But
national
no, but
case-
we're back
if
to
we're going-
complaining about how wrong the government is and how we do our sportsmen wrong and so on. Let's just be happy about this for a moment.
You
I
can be
think.
happy and criticize the government at the same time.
Absolutely, but can we choose
In
not
fact,
to criticize
I can be
for the
happy
last
cri-
4 minutes
I
of the
can be
show?
happy
Can we
criticizing
just
the
enjoy his success without being so cynical about the government
Show
as
us-
always?
show us the
How is it
injury.
possible?
I've spoken
How
about
is
it.
it
I've
possible
talked.
to be cynical
I've
about
talked.
the
I've
government?
pushed for the media to capture this
No, you just
inspiration.
have to be truthful.
I've pushed for the media to capture this inspiration and try and package that for public consumption regularly, so that this is what Kenyans are ingesting when it comes to informing their values, their opinions, their cognitions, and so on. I've called for him to maybe get a leadership position. Of course, in the immediate, it's for him to receive a hero's welcome. That's absolutely crucial. I hope the president will be there to receive him. You've talked of fighter jets and so on. Let's really amplify this for what it is. The whole world was watching. We need to celebrate it as well. We need to be given something to celebrate as well. It's been a while. So let's talk positively, CT. Yes, we'll come back and bash the government tomorrow. I don't have a problem. In fact, I'll join you
I
tomorrow.
don't always
I'll join
bash
you
the
tomorrow in
government.
bashing the government.
No, I don't always bash the government.
You do. I mean, you
No,
speak a lot of
always.
truth. You
Always,
speak
no.
a great deal of truth.
So that's it. That's your outtake for the day.
My
CT, what's
outtake
your-
is that it's been an inspiration. I'm inspired and I feel good, and I want to keep feeling good.
When you have individuals showing an entire system called the government the way, it speaks volumes about the state that our government is in. If I say more, I'll be told I'm bashing the government.
Yes, stop.
So I will leave it there.
Stop.
I think from this, there's so much that we can learn. There are things that we can take away and also speak to ourselves in terms of what we can do to also move forward and to actually reach that place where we understand really what unlimited is. Unlimited mean, in wherever it is that within, whatever boundaries within which you operate. And whether it is on an individual level, whether it's government level, it's our thinking really that needs to change. And once it's clear. Once you think it, you can do it. Same thing. If we're looking for a better government, better country, better individuals, once you change your thinking, you can actually then act, and then you will see results. That's my takeaway for today.
It's been a wonderful weekend for Kenya. I mean, we've had 3 athletes who have basically gone and conquered the world in front of everybody's eyes. The name Kenya has been mentioned positively around the world. And I think it's about time that our government actually did something to notice that we are being positive this time about our country, and our government should also play its part in being positive about this. When these 2 gentlemen and lady come back home, they should receive better reception than what we did with our team from Qatar. They should actually receive that. On Jamhuri Day this year, this team should also receive better accolades than we've been giving them before. Giving them a HSC and OBE and all that. No, let's give them the highest accolades, especially for Eliud Kipchoge. I won't tire from saying this. He should be given what we have reserved for heads of state before. This is the CGH. Well, between now and 3 p.m., of course, you'll be listening to Spice Soul, uninterrupted music. And then 3 to 7 p.m., tuning to Spice Drive. Monique will be taking you home. And of course, from 7 o'clock to 10 p.m., adults in the room, Eric, Barbara, and Emmanuel will be giving you the ups and downs of modern relationships, family, romance, and everything. These are the adults in the room. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Situation Room. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 7 o'clock. 6 to 10. Good morning.
Spice up your life. Cruising through the golden years on 94.4